18b, we continue the discussion over issue of afterlife. The Mishnah in general speaks about situation that someone is in a state of onen, which means that we don't, in the process of completion, we didn't complete the burial. By the same token, the person needs to fully occupied with all the arrangement, and therefore we free that person from all the other mitzvot. He's focusing on that. The way that the Talmud speaks is always indirect other subject, since it's an afterlife subject. So here is the subject of Bnei Rabbi Chia. Bnei Rabbi Chia. So the Gemarah said as follows: Bnei Rabbi Chia nafuk lekiryata yakar lehu talmudayu. The sons of Rabbi Chia, they are so much with business. They left the Beit Midrash. They went to the place they employed people, and they are so busy with the business involvement that they felt sorry that they felt sorry that they keep forgetting a lot of their studies. You cannot eat the cake and leave it full, so that's the way it is. So they felt bad about it. So one said to his fellow, Rabbi Chia had many children, so one said to his either fellow or brother, and he said, our father was no longer among the living, but he was so much caring for Torah that he is aware of what's going on here. Meaning, is he aware of our sorrow of being involved in business and not so much with study? So the other said, I'm definite that the father is aware. The father, Rabbi Chia, was a great rabbi. Amar lo idach menayada. So the other said, can you prove what you're saying? You're saying that dad is very aware of our situation, that we study little, not the way we used to. How do you prove that he is aware of what's going on? So he brought a quotation from the book of Eov, book of Job, that said as follows: והכתיב יכבדו בניו ולא ידע. The book of Job speaks about the sorrow, and he is a different angle of the state of sorrow. So one of the things he's talking about his own situation, that when a person have, for example, a sickness or financial hardship, he is not always expresses to his family. So it can happen that the person suffer for all kind of problems, yet the family members, in that sense, they use the word banav, his sons, not even aware of what's happening to a person. So if you read the testimony of son of one of the New York stockbroker that involved with a lot of issues, it's the testimony. He said that he wasn't aware of what his father is doing. So the other son responded. He said, "Amar le idach velo yada." Why are you saying so? I can prove to you for the same source the opposite. Ve'aktiv ach besaro alav yichav ve'nafsho alav te'eval, which means that Job described a situation that when a person in a state of sorrow, even is not expressing it clearly, the people around him, especially his immediate family, carry the sense that he is going to certain situations. So therefore, they try to say here indirectly that even the father is no longer physically there, in spirit he is with them all the time. I can attest to that many times while I officiated weddings, the family members come to me afterward and said to me, like it happened last night, that they felt that the grandparents were there. The spirit of the grandparents was there during the chuppah. Anyway, so since you have to know the Talmud trait is always, it's not really digressing, but always since they speak about the subject, they elaborate in different angles. So they said, ואמר רבי יצחק קשר עמה למת כמחט בשר החי. It's like you carry a feeling that a dead person have all the feeling excluding the expression, which means part of the body decay is the worm involved with with the body, which means the reason we have on the bottom of the coffin a hole, that it's expedites the process of the decay of the body. The body came from dust, returned to dust. In Israel we don't have the coffin, but here that's the reason why the traditional Judaism hold that it should be a hole on the very bottom of simple casket. So with that, he hold that he tried to be clear in our language. He said that the dead person feels the rimad, the process of decay, the same as you put a needle in the living person. That the living person have a feeling when you touch him with needle, he can tolerate that, but he feel the pain. So he said, Amrei betzara didu yade, betzara de achrina lo yade. So the other response is all between great sages. They said that in that sense the dead person feel their own sorrow, but they don't feel the sorrow of others, which means the feeling that we have for other people while a person is alive, it's not the same category of feeling of person is no longer among the living. So others attack him back. You have to know the conversation is always some type of attacking each other in order to understand the subject better. So they said, Vela? They said, you're going to tell me that the dead people have no clue what's happening to others? We disagree. And we can prove it to you. And this is a story that not only occurred here in the Talmud, it's also in Avodah Rabbi Natan, it's also in Yalkut, in the Midrash. It's many sources to this story, and you hear it many times from many rabbis. But this is the original source, Tractate Berachot 18b. מעשה בין חסיד אחד שנתן דינר לעני בערב ראש השנה בשני בצורת. אוי אוי אוי. The pious person that he is in a state of either poverty or very poor person, and he carries a dinar, which is a valuable coin. And a poor person approached him at the eve of Rosh Hashanah, and he gave that person the dinar. And he came home, v'iknitatu ishto. So his wife gave him a rough time. She said to him, what's wrong with you? We have a hard time to make a living, it's Erev Yontiv, and you take that money and you give it to a poor person instead of taking care of the family. And he reached a point, he ran away from her because she was very strong with him or he was afraid of her, and he was afraid to sleep on any of his friend's house or any place around there. So he went and he slept where? In a Beit HaKvarot, in a cemetery. So he slept in a cemetery, which is for sure an unpleasant experience. And the Meforshim, the Ritva, the Marsha, many Meforshim said that it was the eve of Rosh Hashanah. Not just the eve of Rosh Hashanah, but you have this type of experience with, soon you read the dream and everything, and that evening. ושמע שתי רוחות שמספרות זו לזו. As you know, in the literature of the high holidays of Rosh Hashanah, we said that there is a decree in heaven who is going to live, who is going to die, who is going to prosper, who is going to impoverish, etc. That's part of the prayer on Rosh Hashanah. So since it is a decision made on Rosh Hashanah, he heard two ruchot, is like spirits, two voices, goes around the cemetery. Amra chada lechaverta. One neshama, one soul, one spirit said to the other, and he was hearing the conversation. Boi v'nashut ba'olam, v'nishma ma'achorei ha'pargod, ma pur'anut bar la'olam. Let's travel around the world and see what's happening and what's the plan in the world, meaning the world above our earthly world. What's the upcoming event or upcoming pur'anut? Pur'anut is like tragedies or sad news that befall or decree upon the world for this upcoming year. Amra la chaverta. So the other neshama, the other soul responds, and they said, Eini yechola, I can't do that, she'ani kvura במחצלת של קנים. What did they say מחצלת של קנים here? מחצלת של קנים, it's like, she said that, not behind the curtain, she said that she is buried in a sense above ground, which is another discussion we have to have.
Oh yeah, buried in a matting of reeds, according to this.
Matting of reeds. So it means that she passed away, and after the passing, they didn't dig a grave and put the body in the grave. They cover it with what? How do you call it?
Reeds. Because maybe a family was too poor to afford linen.
Either poor or for the idea to do it quick or other reason, but anyway, they cover it above ground with reeds. And she said to other neshama, since I wasn't buried properly and I wasn't have the whole regular process of decays, therefore I cannot join you in this journey to know what's happening in the world above. Ela, but here is my suggestion. Lechi at uma she'at shomat imri li. She said to the other neshama, go, search, and whatever you hear, come back and tell me. Imagine this guy, he's running away from his wife, he's sleeping in his cemetery, it's Erev Rosh Hashanah, in the middle of the night. You hear these two spirits talking to each other, and one spirit told the others, let's see what's the upcoming event, and she said, I can't see it because, I can't hear it, I cannot discuss it because I wasn't buried properly. So she asked her to go around and return with the report.
Yeah, one possible explanation here they give about that one who couldn't travel with the other spirit because the reeds don't decompose as quickly as...
that's exactly what I said, that because of the process of the decomposing of a body, which in traditional Judaism we requested, here in this country we request us to have on the bottom of the simple wood coffin a hole, so the decay process will be much quicker. In Israel we don't have even a coffin, but because it's no process of decay, in a way buried or left above ground, therefore she cannot join her, which is another subject. Alcha hi veshata uva. So the first neshama, the first spirit, went and she returned with the report. Ve'amra la chaverta. So the other neshama said to her, Chaverti ma shamat machorei pargot. My friends, so what did you hear behind the curtain? Which means she wants to know what's happening in this upcoming year behind the scenes. What in the heaven they decree. So she answered and she said, Amra la shamati, what I heard, shekol hazorea birvi'a reshona barad balke oto. The year divided to 4 seasons. So she said to her, whoever planted the seed at the first quarter of the year, they're going to have a storm like we experienced not long ago, a huge, unpredictable storm, and that storm is going to affect all the crop, whatever it's there, and they're going to lose a lot of money because they put tremendous amount of investment with these seeds, and it's going to so halach hu vezara b'rvi'a shniya. When he wake up from this pious man, he heard all this discussion. Guess what he did? He went home, and when Yom Tov is over, unlike all of his friends, he didn't plant anything. He waited for the second season, and then the second season he planted all the seeds. And what happened? Shel kol ha'olam kulo laka, shelo lo laka. Everyone else that planted the seeds, all these others, agricultural people, farmers, they all lost everything. And he was the only one who gets a lot of money that year. Lashana acheret. So since he was so pleased with the result, overnight he became wealthy. So he alach velan bevet hakvarot. So now it's not because he ran away from his wife. Now on purpose, at the eve of Rosh Hashanah, this guy went and he slept at the cemetery again. Right? Now, it's several things before we continue on. There's several things that we can derive. First is what the Sefer Hasidim and Rashba said. It's many say that the whole idea of the body feels. The original discussion was about the feeling of the body or feeling of the deceased. So they said there is a difference between nefesh and guf. The body does not have a feeling because the neshama, the soul, departure from the body. But since the soul is not fully departure from the body, therefore when you speak about the process of decay, the soul carry a feeling of pain, which is a different definition. Another important thing that all the commentators said that there is a meaning behind just the simple pshat, the simple text here, that because of that good deeds that he gave the coin to a poor person, and the same thing, he doesn't want to involve in Erev Yontev with fight with his wife and everything, so he went to the cemetery and he realizes the whole idea of the decree of nourishment and giving the money to the poor and everything, it's heavenly decree. And because of that, he was granted with this gift, in a sense of prophecy or understanding, that the giving the coin to a poor person, even it was his almost last coin, rewarded him to be the most wealthy person for that year. Yes?
Why the soul don't depart completely from the body? Is it because the body not buried yet, or what?
It's a good question. One of the requirements by Torah is not to hang the body on a tree, the Torah said, but to bury it, which means we have the obligation. It's even called met mitzvah. If no one else can do it, we have to do it, which is respectfully we have to dig a grave and bury it under the ground, because we believe that as long as the body is not fully decayed, there is a relationship between the spirit, the soul, and the body. The Talmud said in Shabbat, just let me finish, Shabbat, in Tractate Shabbat 155, the Talmud said, as long as the decay is not completed, it's still there, and even is in this story of this, whatever you call it, this young soul, you see that from that story you derive also the idea that it's not fully a separation between the body and the soul because of that. Yes.
But you said before, after even after the body decays, after the year is up, there's still a connection between the soul and the grave. So when somebody comes and visits the grave of somebody who's departed, there's still some sort of
spark
connection.
Yes.
How does that relate to what
we believe that the soul have a sparks in our language. And because soul have a sparks, it turns that the sparks of the soul wave. There is a book called Gesher HaChaim, Bridge of Life, by the great Rabbi Tukochinsky, may he rest in peace. And he brought in that book many quotations that in the process of seven stages between the passing and the completion, there is a stage that he quote many sources, it's called the soul is waving around the grave, which means at a certain time the spark of the soul, since the body buried there and the body was attached to the soul, so the spark of the soul is there, especially at the time of commemoration. There is a connectedness between that part and the soul. Yes.
So now we're going to get a little metaphysical. Mm-hmm. If you've spoken before about the process of the soul and the possibility of reincarnation, as it were. So does that mean that if you have a soul that has had more than one body, does that mean that there is a connection between the soul and maybe one grave and another grave?
Okay. This is much more behind the scope of this talk, but I just give you the abbreviation. there is two different school of thoughts and school of teaching. There is a great rabbi by the name of Rabbi Chaim Vital. He wrote a book. It's not really reincarnation, it's a transmigration. And in that book he described a process of some of the souls that need to return, and it's a description of returning to a new form of body. In that sense, it can even turn to a form after the first time of animals. There is a different school of thought, goes much earlier, the time of the great Girona school of Kabbalah, the 13th century in Spain, that speak about soul coming back in the form of souls to a certain location, certain body, and from that point it's going to only to the process of animals, immovable, etc. So with the first school of the first we mentioned, Rabbi Chaim Vital, it's appear that there's a possibility for more than one location of a grave. But that's not the school of thought of everyone. It's the school of thought of some 16th century Kabbalistic rabbi. And again, it's above the scope of this discussion. Back to our subject. Lashana Acheret, so he came back second time. He went to the cemetery. Now he's in a different position. He wants either to see what's happening or to plan his business accordingly. Now he didn't run away from his wife, right? And it's not because he gave the coin to a poor. ושמע אותן שתי רוחות ושמספרות זו לזו. Again the same situation. It's Erev Rosh Hashanah, and he's hearing two spirits, they are talking to each other. אמרה חדה לחברתה, one said to the other, בואי ונשוט בעולם, come and travel around the world, ונשמע מאחורי הפרגוד, and let's hear behind the curtain, מה פורענות בא לעולם, what type of sadness, what type of things going to happen in the world. אמרה לה חברתי, לא כך אמרתי לך, don't you remember what I told you last year? שאיני יכולה, at I can't, and Rashi explained it here, and he said, הפרגוד מחיצה מבדלת בין מקום השכינה. There is, in our anthropomorphic ways, there is a place that divine providence dwell, and is a place that they have some type of mechitza, a separation for other entities that is not always digging there and be able to see or know what's happening. And since I is not buried properly, I'm above ground, and it's not completion of decay of my body, therefore did I told you last year, she said, that I cannot go there and hear that what you can do because of my incomplete burial, which again is a different subject. I think when, if I'm not mistaken, when we study books of Samuel, the end, and we talk about different death and different burial those days, we discuss also this issue of burying properly. But anyway, so she said, I told you I cannot hear that. So she said, שאני קבורה במחצלת של קנים, because I was buried with these reeds covered above ground. אלא לכי את. So again she said to her, you can go by yourself. ומה שאת שומעת, but still because I'm no longer among the living, it's like in between status, you can come back, בואי ואמרי לי. Come back and you can tell me what you heard. So it's like I can hear what you heard and you can share with me. הלכה ושתה ובא. So the first neshama went and she traveled and she returned. ואמרה לה חברתה, חברתי, מה שמעת מאחורי הפרגוד? She said, so tell me what you heard behind the curtain. אמרה לה, שמעתי שכל הזורע ברבייה השנייה שידפון מלכה אותו. She said, I heard that whoever plant any seed at the second season of the year, the second part, which is between the third month, the beginning of the fourth month, to the 6th month, the end of the 6th month, the second period of the year, anybody who planted is going to be again tremendous storm, and it's going to ruin everything, all the plant, all the crop, הלך וזרע בריאה ראשונה. So this guy, what did he do? He went ahead and at the first period he planted. של כל העולם כולו נשדף ושלו לא נשדף. So everybody else lost their pants, but he is the only one who makes money. Why? Because unlike everybody else tried to do what he did last year. So he was the only one who planted the first period. So he won and everyone lost. אמרה לו אשתו, so his sweetheart, his wife, said to this חסיד, מפני מה אשתקד של כל העולם כולו לקה ושלך לא לקה? How come everybody else lost and you didn't? ועכשיו, and this year, של כל העולם כולו נשדף ושלך לא נשדף? And how come everyone else this year lost and you didn't? אוי אוי אוי, סח לה כל הדברים הללו. So what did he do, this man? She put him in such a situation, he is a darling. And as a result, what did he do?
Tell her.
He told his wife the truth. He told her what's he's not supposed to tell her. Amru, so this rabbi says what happened. לא היו ימים מועטים, in a short time, עד שנפלה קטטה, until it was a fight between this חסיד wife, בין אשתו של אותו חסיד ובין אמא של אותה ריבה. So, short time afterward, his wife, let's call her name, let's call her Shlomit, right? So this Shlomit, the wife of the Chassid, have a fight with the mother of the deceased, of that girl that was buried above ground. Different fight. אמרה לה, לכי ואראה ביתך שהיא קבורה במחסרת של קנים. While they have a fight, she said to her, you know what, you daughter, you're talking, you know, how dare you bury your daughter above ground? You know how she was buried? Shame of you. She was buried, she wasn't buried properly, we dig a grave and you didn't do it what is right, you bury her above ground. So it's like tremendous insult, even she was right, to the mother of the deceased. לשנה האחרת, this is the third year, הלך ולן בבית הקברות. Now he goes third time and his wife already know about it, right? And the mother of the deceased know already about that other people know how she buried her daughter, right? ושמע אותם רוחות שמספרות זו עם זו. Again he heard the conversation at night. So he's still a pious man, he hear the conversation. אמרה לה חברתי בואו ונשוט בעולם ונשמע מאחורי הפרגות מה פורענות בעולם. The same discussion. Let's travel and see what's happening בעולם. אמרה לה חברתי הניחיני. She has said to her, my friends, you cannot talk now. Leave me. You know why? דברים שביני לבינך כבר נשמעו בין החיים. Our discussion was already heard among the livings. Which means we cannot continue our discussion at this point because there is someone who hear our discussion and therefore we cannot continue our conversation. Alma, so the proof from all the stories derive another conclusion which goes back to the original subject. Alma yad e. From here they derive the conclusion that the dead knows what's happening in the world. You can go in many directions. Either her mother came to her place and told her, or other reasons, but anyway, they knew what's happening. Dilma eini shacharina shachev v'azel v'amar lehu. Maybe someone else told her, maybe the mother, maybe the wife, maybe whatever it is, they know what's happening here. In other words, in this Gemarah, they try to prove that the dead, excluding speaking that we can hear, everything else they know. So some conclusion involved here, for example, the prohibition for us to put tefillin or tzitzis or other mitzvot in the cemetery, that we call it like insult for the great and for the dead, that they cannot perform this mitzvot, they derive from that. A certain decorum of behavior in the cemetery, again, involved with the idea that the dead, in our language, are basically in a sense of awareness very much, more than average person understand. See some questions.